Let me tell you something that would make cold, sticky sweat run down most people's spines if they actually bothered to think about the meaning of my words, rather than just letting them fly right past their ears as they do with everything important in their lives, because the truth is not what you want to hear over your morning coffee. The truth is what keeps you awake at night. If right now, at this very second, you have only one source of income, you are not just taking a risk, you are committing financial suicide in slow motion. And the only reason you are still alive is that you are simply lucky so far. But luck in the economy is not a strategy. It is a fool's hope. And the market loves to punish fools who confuse a bold trend with their own genius. You think your salary is safety? That this monthly transfer to your card is your shield against the chaos of this crazy world? But that is a lie. The most dangerous, sweet, and toxic lie you have been fed since kindergarten, training you like Pavlov's dogs to react to the bell and wait for the bowl of food while your self-preservation instincts atrophy to the level of a pet hamster. You were trained to believe that a stable job is a virtue, that loyalty to one employer is an honor. But let me rip those rose-colored glasses off you and show you a reality that will make you want to scream. Your salary is not an asset. It is a drug, a powerful sedative injected intravenously in exactly the dosage needed, so you don't die of hunger, but also don't gain enough strength to escape the cage you're helping to build yourself. Have you ever wondered why, when receiving money, you feel relief, but 2 weeks later, it is replaced by a quiet, gnawing anxiety? This is not paranoia. This is your brain, an ancient survival mechanism, trying to break through this narcotic fog and tell you that you are in mortal danger. You are exactly one bad conversation with your boss away from poverty, one failed corporate merger away from bankruptcy, one sudden illness away from a complete, total catastrophe that will grind all your achievements into dust faster than you can update your resume. You have built your life, your children's future, your plans for old age, and your self-esteem on a stool with a single leg, and yet you dare to be surprised why you are constantly shaking, why every headline about a crisis gives you tachycardia. This is not background noise. This is your intuition screaming at you that you are standing on the edge of an abyss blindfolded and the wind is picking up. Modern life is a factory for manufacturing obligations, a conveyor belt stamping out debts, mortgages, and subscriptions, and you voluntarily lie down under this press, having in your pocket only the honest word of some strange uncle to pay you at the end of the month, but you forget to ask yourself, what happens if the uncle changes his mind? I see you starting to get angry. I see your ego trying to defend itself, whispering to you, I am a good specialist. I am irreplaceable. My company is a market leader. But that is a lie you tell yourself so as not to go mad with horror. In the world of investing, if you put 100% of your money into one stock, you would be called a clinical idiot and stripped of your license because concentration without control is madness. But in life, 99% of people do exactly that. They invest 100% of their time, 100% of their energy, and 100% of their future into a single, fragile, unreliable source of income that doesn't even belong to them. Yes, you heard right. It doesn't belong to you. And the moment you realize that, your world will turn upside down. Your job is your boss's asset. Your workplace is the shareholder's property. Your position is a line in someone else's ledger. And the second an Excel spreadsheet shows that you are no longer profitable, or when artificial intelligence learns to do your job 10% cheaper, You will be crossed out like a rounding error, and no one will even remember how hard you worked on weekends. You think you own your career? The graveyards are full of people who owned careers, and unemployment offices are packed with those who thought the company was family. But a family doesn't fire children to optimize a quarterly report. You rent your lifestyle, you rent your peace of mind, and rented peace always has an expiration date. And when that date expires, and it will expire, that is a mathematical inevitability, you will end up on the street with a cardboard box of personal belongings and a question that will burn you from the inside. How could I have been so blind? And I will tell you how. You allowed comfort to kill your vigilance. You traded freedom for the illusion of guarantees. But in economics, there are no guarantees. There is only probability. And the probability that one source of income will feed you forever trends toward zero, faster than ice melts in hell. I have observed this pattern for 7 decades. I have seen empires crumble and industries vanish. And every time the scenario is the same. Smart people, educated people, people with high IQs who can solve the most complex equations turn into helpless children when it comes to managing their own risks. They buy expensive cars to drive to a job they secretly hate, to pay for a house they only sleep in, to recover their strength for work that could disappear tomorrow morning. It is a rat race where the finish line is constantly moving away, and the scariest part is not that you are running, but that you are running on thin ice, beneath which lies the icy water of bankruptcy. You will tell me, but Charlie, everyone lives like this, it's normal, it's the standard. And that is exactly the moment I realize that before me is not an investor, but a victim of statistics, a person who has confused normality with safety. Just because the majority of people do stupid things doesn't make stupidity wisdom. It just makes stupidity a mass epidemic. The crowd is always wrong at the turning points of history. The crowd bought tulips before the crash. The crowd believed in the eternal growth of real estate in 2007, and the crowd now believes that one salary is a foundation, although in reality, it is a noose. You must understand one brutal, cold arithmetic truth that does not care about your feelings. The digit 1 is the most dangerous number in business and in life. It is the number of vulnerability, the number of loneliness, the number of collapse. One client, one supplier, one source of income. This is a formula for catastrophe waiting for its hour. It is a time bomb ticking right next to your ear while you sleep. If you have 2 sources and one disappears, you are left with 50%. You are wounded. You are in pain, but you are alive. You can breathe. You can think. If you have one source and it disappears, you are left with 0. And 0 in the financial world means death, social death, loss of status, loss of opportunities, loss of face. You don't just lose money. You lose the levers of control over your own destiny. You lose the right to vote in your own home. You lose your dignity, turning from the captain of your ship into a passenger on a lifeboat that is leaking. A person without income diversification is a slave who has been allowed to wear a tie and choose the flavor of coffee in the office machine. But take that tie off him, take away his pass, block his corporate email, and what remains? Panic. Pure, distilled animal panic that makes your mouth go dry. I see you tensing up. I see you wanting to object. Your ego feverishly searching for arguments. I don't have time. I am focused on my career. My industry is eternal. That is not your voice. That is the voice of your fear. That is the voice of that very trained dog afraid to step outside the yard because there is no ready bowl there, and this fear masquerades as rationality. But listen to me carefully, and let this be the most important thing you hear all year. Rich people, those who truly own their lives and don't just pretend on Instagram, they aren't smarter than you. They don't have a third brain hemisphere. They are simply paranoids. Constructive, professional paranoids. They know that any stream, no matter how full it is today, can turn into a dry ditch tomorrow, due to one regulator's decision or one technological shift. They don't believe in optimism. They believe in engineering. They build dams. They dig canals. They create systems that withstand blows because they know the blow will definitely come. You bought yourself golden handcuffs. They are cute. They are shiny. The neighbors envy your shine. Your mother is proud of your title, but they are suffocating. And with each year, they tighten harder. Every time you want to say no to an absurd demand, you look at these handcuffs and say yes, with a fake smile. Every time you want to take a risk and start something of your own, you remember the mortgage, the sole source of food, and retreat into the shadows. You sold your right to risk, your right to audacity, your right to make a mistake for the illusion of security. But the problem is that you bought a cheap Chinese knockoff for the price of the original. True security is not when you are paid a lot. True security is when you are paid from different places, when you become a hydra that grows 2 new heads in place of a severed one. It is when your boss calls you onto the carpet to scold you like a schoolboy, and you stand there barely holding back a smile because you know a secret he doesn't know. Even if he fires you right now, you won't miss a single bill payment. Your standard of living won't drop by a cent. That is power, real, quiet power. That is freedom that cannot be taken away. And what you have now is a hostage situation, and you locked the cell door yourself and swallowed the key, convincing yourself that everyone lives this way. But deep inside, in those moments of silence before sleep, you know that I am right. You feel this fragility with every cell of your body, and this fear is the only honest feeling you have left. But here is the funniest thing about this tragedy you mistakenly call your career, or perhaps the most terrible, depending on how strong your nerves are and whether you are ready to see your reflection in the mirror without embellishment. You probably believe that poverty is the result of fatal bad luck, evil fate, or bad government, and wealth is the result of genius, insider information, or winning the genetic lottery. But the U.S. Internal Revenue Service, an organization that has no sense of humor, no pity, no soul, but has all the data in the world, looks at your beliefs as the ravings of a madman who needs to be isolated from society for his own good. They have analyzed the tax returns of millions of people for decades, those who barely make ends meet buying lottery tickets with their last money, and those who own half the world. And in these dry, boring reports, they found one pattern that is so simple that ignoring it should be considered a criminal offense against oneself. It is not a secret hidden in a Masonic lodge behind 7 seals. It is not secret knowledge passed in whispers in closed clubs. It is open statistics. It is naked, brutal arithmetic. And this arithmetic states, the average millionaire does not have one source of income, and not 2, and not even 3. He has 7. 7 different streams independent of each other that flow into one river, and while you're trying to fill your bathtub with a dropper, They have opened the floodgates. Think about that number. Let it burn through your brain. 7. And now, when the shock has passed, look at your life and answer me honestly. How many streams do you have? Most likely one, and that one dries up every time a drought happens in the economy. You sell your time, your only non-renewable resource, wholesale to a single buyer, your boss. And for some reason, you consider this a profitable deal. In business, this is called lack of diversification. This is called critical counterparty risk. But in your life, for some reason, you call it stability. Although in reality, to call a spade, it is called stupidity. You are a supplier who has only one client, and this client is capricious. This client can go bankrupt. This client can find someone younger and cheaper. And if he decides that your product, your time and skills no longer matches his price, your market closes instantly, without warning, without severance pay, without a parachute. You are bankrupt the second the signature on the termination order dries on the paper. You don't just lose a deal, you lose your livelihood, you lose the ability to feed your children. And have you ever wondered why you feel this constant background sticky anxiety even when everything is going well at work and the boss smiles at you? This is not paranoia, this is your brain. That ancient wise survival mechanism that saw saber-toothed tigers trying to scream to your consciousness through layers of corporate noise and say, "We are in a trap, you idiot." Because dependence on one source is the trap, the most reliable, most invisible cage ever invented. And the scariest thing about this construction is that the door to this cage is open, but you are afraid to walk out because outside no one promises to feed you on a schedule, and freedom is hungry. Rich people, those you secretly hate in the comments and envy while looking at their lives through a smartphone screen, are actually not smarter than you. They don't have secret knowledge available only to the chosen ones. They don't know how to predict the future, but they have one fundamental quality that you don't, and it is precisely what makes them rich and you poor. They are constructive paranoids. They know that any stream, no matter how powerful, turbulent, and eternal it seems today, can turn into a dry ditch full of mud tomorrow. Recession, technological change, pandemic, bad law, artificial intelligence, anything can cut off the flow, and they know it. Therefore, they don't pray for rain like you do. They take shovels, wear their hands down to blood, and dig canals while you watch TV series. They are obsessed with the idea that if one asset dies, 6 others must continue to feed their family. And this obsession is the only reason why they sleep peacefully, and you don't. It is not greed, as you are told in cheap movies about evil capitalists. It is survival engineering. It is security architecture built on pessimism. You look at a billionaire and think, he has enough money. Why does he need another business? And he looks at you and thinks, how can this person sleep at night knowing that one decision by a board of directors made by people who don't even know his name can turn him into a beggar in 24 hours? You live in a sweet narcotic illusion that your salary is an asset, that it is your property. But let me destroy this illusion right now before it destroys you completely. Your salary is not an asset. It is a subscription to survival that is renewed for you every month and can be canceled at any moment. An asset is something that brings money when you are not working, when you are sick, when you are on vacation, when you are dead. A salary stops the second you stop working, and that makes you not an owner of capital, but a biological appendage to the machine. You do not own your income. You rent it, giving in return hours of your only unique life, and like any tenant, you can be evicted without warning simply because the owner of the premises, the market, doesn't need you anymore. You think 7 sources of income is a luxury available only to those who already have millions, that first you need to get rich and then diversify? That is a lie with which you cover your laziness and your fear of action. 7 sources is not a consequence of wealth, it is the cause of wealth. It is the foundation on which a skyscraper is built, and you are trying to build a skyscraper on a swamp. No one becomes rich having one salary unless he is a CEO from the Fortune 500 list or a sports star. But let's be honest. Let's look truth in the eye. You are not them, and never will be, if you continue to act according to the old scheme. You are an average person playing Russian roulette with a full chamber, hoping the gun misfires 6 times in a row. Imagine a table, an ordinary oak dining table on which stands your life, your food, your house, your children's education, your future, your dreams. For a millionaire, this table stands on 7 legs, sturdy, thick legs. If someone comes up and kicks one leg out, say a crisis happens in one industry or the stock market crashes, the table will wobble. Maybe a little water will spill from a glass, but it will stand. It will remain standing firmly, and dinner will continue. Now look at your table. Look closely. It has one leg in the center, and that leg is your job. Any push, any wind, any market movement, any whim of the boss, and your whole life flies to the floor, shattering into pieces, turning into a pile of garbage. You call this a career. You are proud of this table. I call this a lack of foundation. I call this an engineering disaster. You spend years polishing this single leg. You make it beautiful. You receive certificates and promotions. You hang medals on it, but you forget simple physics that cannot be cheated. A single point of support is an unstable structure, and gravity always wins. And here we come to the most unpleasant moment, to that thought you chase away when you open Instagram and see successful people, to that thought that makes you feel small. You think diversification is complicated, that it is quantum physics, that to create a second stream, you need to be a business genius or have connections in the government. But the truth is much more brutal. It is offensive in its simplicity. You don't create new sources of income not because it's hard, but because you are addicted to comfort. You are a stability junkie. Monotony soothes. It lulls. It turns off the brain. Coming to the same office, doing the same job, receiving the same text message from the bank on the same day of the month. This is hypnosis. This is the sweet sleep of reason that births monsters of poverty. Creating a second source requires you to wake up, to snap out of the trance. It requires you to admit that your current strategy is a loser's strategy, a victim's strategy. And admitting mistakes hurts. Your ego hates pain. It will defend itself to the last. Your ego tells you, you are a good specialist. You are valued. Nothing will happen to you. Crises affect others. Shut that voice up. Smother it with a pillow of logic. That voice wants you to remain vulnerable because a vulnerable person is easier to control. Look at the numbers again. Let them burn the truth onto your retina. 7 against 1. It is not just a difference in quantity. It is not just more money. It is a difference in philosophy, in attitude towards life. A person with 7 sources of income plays offense. He is aggressive. He is bold. He can take risks. He can invest aggressively. He can try new things because he has insurance. he has a rear guard. A person with one source always his entire life plays defense. He is always in retreat. You are afraid to ask for a raise one extra time because you are afraid to ruin the relationship and get fired. You are afraid to change professions because you are afraid of losing seniority and starting from scratch. Fear is a leash, and that leash is held by the one who pays your salary, and he can yank it at any moment. You think you are a free citizen of a free country who has rights? Try not showing up for work for a week without a valid reason, simply because you didn't want to, and you will find out how much your freedom is actually worth. It is worth exactly as many days as you can live without the next check. And for most of you, that period is frighteningly short. So short that it isn't even funny. You might tell me, "Charlie, but it's impossible to tear myself apart. I can't work 7 jobs. There are only 24 hours in a day." And in that moment, you show how deeply the system has brainwashed you, how effectively it has etched out your ability to think at scale. You are still thinking linearly like a factory worker in the 19th century. You think, to get money, I have to give time. This is a poor man's mindset. This is a trap from which there is no exit. The rich don't work 7 jobs. They aren't crazy. They create 7 systems. They buy assets that work for them 24/7. They don't exchange time for money. They exchange ideas and capital for streams that flow regardless of whether they are asleep or awake. And until you understand this fundamental difference, until you stop thinking like an employee and start thinking like an asset owner, you will run in a wheel that spins faster and faster but goes nowhere. And at the end of this run, only a heart attack and a meager pension await you. The biggest scam of the century lies in the fact that we were told, specialize. We were told, strike at one point, become a narrow professional. This is good advice for a doctor or a scientist, but it is terrible, catastrophic advice for your wallet. Financial specialization is a path to fragility. It is a path to extinction. In nature, it is not the strongest who survive, but the most adapted, the most adaptive. And adaptability in economics is diversity. It is versatility. If you are an oak that stands proudly but alone, a hurricane will tear you out by the roots, and only a whole will remain of you. If you are grass that grows everywhere, the hurricane will simply bend you to the ground, and you will straighten up again as soon as the wind dies down. Millionaires are grass. They are everywhere. Their money is everywhere. In stocks, in real estate, in business, in debt, in intellectual property. They have spread their roots so wide that no economic storm can kill them entirely. They will always sprout again. And you? You stand as a proud oak with one root system, and the sky above you is starting to darken. The clouds are gathering. Do you feel that wind? It is the wind of change, and it promises nothing good to those who do not know how to bend, to those who bet on a single card. I am not trying to scare you for pleasure. I don't need that. I am trying to wake you up with a gut punch because polite persuasion doesn't work. You are deaf to it. You have heard about passive income hundreds of times, and you let it fly past your ears as just more marketing noise, as a fairy tale for idiots. But now, I am not talking to you about luxury, not about yachts. I am talking about survival. I am talking about the fact that having one source of income in the 21st century, in the era of artificial intelligence, globalization, and endless crises, is the same as going out into open space in a t-shirt. It is not bravery. It is ignorance bordering on madness. And the math, cold and indifferent, has already started the countdown to the moment when your only support cracks under the weight of reality. I know what you just thought. I can literally hear the gears grinding in your head, trying to digest this horror. And that sound is deafeningly pathetic, because it is the sound of your internal lawyer who has already started typing up an appeal against reality. You sit there, clutching your phone, and your brain feverishly generates excuses, one after another, building a wall between you and the truth I just threw in your face. You whine, "But Charlie, you don't understand. I have no time. I come home from work squeezed like a lemon. I have a mortgage, kids, a bad back, and no starting capital to buy a factory or build an empire." Stop this whining immediately, because this is not the voice of reason. This is the voice of your poverty. This is the voice of a slave who is so used to chains that he has started to consider them jewelry. You think your problem is a lack of resources? No, your problem is a lack of character. You are waiting for the perfect moment when the stars align, when you have an extra million and 3 free hours a day. But let me reveal a secret to you that will make you feel like an idiot. The perfect moment does not exist, and a million doesn't fall from the sky on those who don't know how to manage $10. You think creating a second source of income requires a Herculean feat? That is a lie you feed your laziness. You don't need 7 streams right away. You don't need to become Rockefeller tomorrow. You need to stop being an arrogant fool and create at least a second trickle, even if it is as thick as a thread. You will say, "But where do I start if I have nothing?" And here begins the most interesting part. Here I will flip your view of the world, because you look at wealth through inverted binoculars. You think you need big money first to make money? Rubbish. You need discipline to make money out of thin air. Let me show you what this looks like in the real, dirty, cynical world, without the info gypsy nonsense about successful success and visualizing desires that makes me sick. The first stream is your salary. Yes, the very one I just called a drug. Don't quit tomorrow. That would be stupidity. And we are fighting stupidity here, not multiplying it. Keep the salary. That is your bread. That is fuel for your car. But ask yourself, where is your oil? Where is the engine that will run when you hit the brakes? Your salary is a seed that you, like a hungry peasant, eat completely every month. And that is exactly why you have no harvest. You eat your future for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And now pay attention, because right now I will give you the key that lies at your feet, but you are too proud to bend down and pick it up. The second stream, the most boring, the most unsexy, the most despised by lovers of quick money, and the most powerful instrument in the history of capitalism, dividends. You grimace? I see you rolling your eyes. Dividends? Seriously, Charlie? Those are pennies. That's for pensioners. And at that moment, you sign your own sentence. You want everything at once, and therefore you get nothing and never. You think investing is guessing the next Tesla or Bitcoin? No, that is a casino for the poor. Real investing is buying the right to someone else's labor. When you buy a share of a dividend aristocrat, you're not just buying a line in an app. You're buying an army. You're buying thousands of people who get up at 6 a.m., go to factories, sell goods, balance sheets, argue with clients. They do all the dirty work. And you? You simply own a tiny piece of their result. You will say, "But one share will bring me $3 a year." That's laughable. Laughable is working for 40 years and retiring a beggar. And $3 that came to you without your participation, that is a miracle. That is magic. That is the first drop of freedom. You don't understand the essence. These pennies are your soldiers. They are the only beings in your life that work while you sleep. They work while you are sick. They work while you're on vacation. They don't ask for a raise. They don't go on maternity leave. They don't steal staplers from the office. And they don't complain about burnout. You despise them because there are few of them. And what does a general do who has few soldiers? He hires them one by one, month after month, year after year. You take 10% of your bread, your salary, and turn it into soldiers. First, it is a platoon, then a company, then a battalion. And one day you wake up and realize that your army earns more than you do yourself. But you are afraid. I feel that fear. You think, what if the market crashes? What if I lose this money? And right here, I must ask you a question that will turn your consciousness inside out. But what if the market doesn't crash and you remain with zero? The risk of losing capital is a probability. The risk of poverty through inaction is a guarantee. You choose guaranteed defeat to avoid a probable risk. This is the mathematics of a suicide bomber. You look at a stock chart and see red lines. I look at the same chart and see a sale. When the market falls, your soldiers become cheaper. You can hire more workers for the same money. You should pray for a market drop if you are in the accumulation stage, but you have been trained to fear the color red like a bull in a bullfight. You must understand that dividends are not about stock prices. They are about cash flow. If you have an apartment you rent out, do you care that its market price dropped by 10% this month? No. You care if the tenant paid the rent. Dividends are rent paid to you by the world's largest corporations because you gave them capital. You think this is long? Charlie, I need 20 years for this to become tangible. Yes, it is long. And how much time do you plan to live? Are you going to die next Tuesday? If not, then time will pass anyway. The question is who you will be in 20 years. An owner of capital that pays your bills, or an old worker who fears dismissal even more than now? Time is the cruelest judge. It does not forgive indecision. You say you have no money to start? A lie. If you can buy coffee, you can buy a fractional share. If you can buy a subscription to Netflix to watch other people live an interesting life, you can buy freedom. The problem is not the amount. The problem is your ego. You are ashamed to start small. You want to look rich, not be rich. You buy liabilities, clothes, gadgets, cars to impress people who don't give a damn about you, instead of buying assets that will feed you when you become useless to anyone. The second stream is an intelligence test. If you cannot make your money work, you will work for money until your last breath. This is not a threat. This is an economic law. You can be offended by me. You can call me an old cynic, but you cannot argue with arithmetic. Every dollar you didn't invest is a deserter you let go. Every dollar spent on garbage is a traitor. You are surrounded by traitors, and you open the gates for them yourself. But as soon as you receive your first dividend, let it be 50 cents, something will click in your brain. You will realize that money can be received without humiliating yourself. You will realize that the system can work for you, not against you. And that click is the sound of handcuffs breaking. This is just the beginning. This is only the second stream, the simplest, most accessible entry ticket to the club of free people. But there are others, and they require from you not just money, They require something more, something you may have long buried under a layer of office dust. Are you ready to find out what it is? Or are you already tired of the truth and want to return to your sweet illusions? Because the next step will require from you not just discipline, it will require from you the courage to look into the face of your main enemy, yourself. But if you think dividends are boring, wait until I tell you about the third stream, which will make you yawn with boredom, right up to the moment it saves your life, when everything else is burning with a blue flame. You have probably heard from young gurus on the internet that keeping money in a bank or bonds is for idiots because inflation eats it faster than moths eat an old fur coat. And there is a grain of truth in that, but that is a truth for peacetime, and you live in a war even if you don't hear gunshots. The third stream is interest. It is boring, predictable income from deposits or government bonds, and you despise it because it doesn't promise you 100% per annum. But you forget to ask yourself the main question: what will you eat when the stock market crashes by 50% and you are fired on the same day? You think this is impossible? In 2008, millions of people learned that it is not just possible, it is the standard scenario of a crisis, and those who had only promising assets were jumping out of windows, while those who had a boring third stream simply bought popcorn and watched the panic from the sidelines. You call this loss to inflation. I call this payment for insurance, because liquidity is oxygen. You don't notice it while there is enough of it, but as soon as it is cut off, you die in 3 minutes, and it doesn't matter how many muscles you have. This stream won't make you rich, that is true, but it will make you immortal in a financial sense. It will give you the right to make a mistake, and in a world where mistakes cost lives, this is the most valuable asset. But you are still not convinced. I see it in your eyes. You want an attack. You want conquests, not defense. And that is precisely why you will lose if you don't listen about the fourth stream, which turns you from a victim of circumstances into a predator. You think your skills belong to you? You are mistaken. As long as you sell them to only one person, your boss, your skills belong to him. He rents your brain, your hands, and your time at a wholesale price and then resells the result of your labor at retail with a markup of 1,000%. The fourth stream is skill monetization, or speaking in plain language, it is when you stop being the exclusive property of one corporation and start selling yourself to the market directly. You know how to write code, fix faucets, consolidate complex tables in Excel that make normal people bleed from their eyes. You do this from 9 to 6 for a fixed salary, and you think that is the limit. But what if I tell you that those same skills, sold to the right people at the right time, are worth 5 times more? You are afraid to start a side hustle because you think it is humiliating that it is for students. But let's flip the situation. What is more humiliating? Taking money from 5 different clients for a job well done, or trembling before one boss, afraid he will notice you left 5 minutes early? You think you don't have time, but in reality, you don't have the courage to admit that you sold yourself cheap into slavery for stability that doesn't exist. The fourth stream is not just extra money for beer, it is the diversification of your personality. It is proof that you are worth something on the open market without your company's logo behind your back. And here, magic happens that you don't expect. As soon as you have your first client on the side, the first dollar earned not via payroll, your posture changes. You walk into the office not as a petitioner, but as a partner, because you know a terrible secret. You can survive without them, but whether they can survive without you is a big question. But you still doubt. You think, it's too hard. I get tired. And this brings us back to the metaphor you must sear into your subcortex if you want to stop being a hostage. Imagine the chair you're sitting on right now. If it has one leg, your salary, you have to constantly tense your back and ab muscles to balance. You cannot relax for a second. Any push, and you are on the floor with a broken nose. If you add a second leg, dividends, it becomes easier, but you are still a tightrope walker. The third leg, interest, gives you the ability to close your eyes sometimes. The fourth leg, your own micro business, makes the structure stable. And now, imagine you have 7 legs. 7. You can saw off 1, 2, even 3 legs with a chainsaw, and you will still remain sitting in your chair, sipping tea and watching other people in panic trying to keep their balance on their unicycles. You think the goal of these streams is to buy a Ferrari or a house in Miami. If you think so, you are still thinking like a poor man who got his hands on money. The goal of these streams is not consumption. The goal is sovereignty. You call it additional income. I call it a go-to-hell fund. Do you know what that is? It is that amount of money and that structure of income that allows you, at any moment when your boss starts crossing lines, when he starts demanding the impossible or humiliating you, to calmly look him in the eye and say, no. Not with aggression, not with hysteria, but with the icy calm of a person who has a loaded gun of financial independence in his pocket. Have you ever seen the eyes of a boss whose subordinate says a calm, firm no? That sight is worth more than any car. It is the moment when the hierarchy crumbles and you stop being a resource and become a human. But you cannot say no if you need to pay the mortgage and there is 0 money in the account. Your yes is not loyalty. It is the fear of hunger, and your boss smells that scent of fear like a shark smells blood in the water. You think wealth is measured by zeros in an account? Mistake. Wealth is measured by the number of days you can live without working, and the number of people you can send to hell without consequences for your standard of living. Every new trickle is one more person whose opinion of you no longer matters. Dividends don't care how you're dressed. Bonds don't care if you were late for a meeting. Your freelance clients don't care about your corporate intrigues. They care about the result. You build a wall between yourself and chaos brick by brick, stream by stream. And yes, it is boring. It requires discipline that makes your jaw ache. It requires denying yourself momentary pleasures, not buying a new iPhone to buy shares, not going to a bar to finish a project for a client. But ask yourself, what is scarier, the boredom of discipline or the horror of helplessness? You think you have a choice? You think you can just ignore this and live as before? Look at the street. Look at the old people counting small change at the checkout. You think they planned to be poor? You think in their youth they said, I want to live my old age in need? No, they were exactly like you. They worked, they hoped, they had a stable salary, but they had a stool with one leg, and one day that leg snapped. Inflation, illness, country collapse, default. It doesn't matter exactly what became the cause. The result is the same. They fell, and they had no spare supports. You look at them and think, this won't happen to me. That is the most dangerous phrase in human language. It will happen to you with 100% probability if you don't change the structure of your life. Math knows no mercy. It makes no exceptions for good people. It simply grinds up those who don't know how to count. Are you still waiting for a magic pill? There isn't one. There is only the boring, dirty, hard work of building an aqueduct that will bring water to your home even if the river dries up. You must become the architect of your life, not a tenant complaining about a leaking roof. The fourth stream, the fifth, the sixth, these aren't just money. They are layers of armor. And when you put on this armor, you will be surprised how much the world around you changes. Problems that used to cause you a panic attack, a car breakdown, a fine, losing a client, will become just expenses, not tragedies, but transactions. You will stop being the main character of a drama and become the CEO of your destiny. But are you ready to pay the price for this transformation? Are you ready to kill the lazy consumer in yourself and wake up the cold, calculating asset creator? Or would you prefer to close this video, turn on a TV show, and continue praying to your boss, hoping he will be kind to you forever? The choice seems obvious, but for some reason, 99% of people choose the TV show. And that is exactly why 99% of people live in fear. And you? Who are you in this statistic? An error or a pattern? Remember one thing they won't tell you in business schools, and you won't read in motivational books with smiling people on the cover, because the truth sells poorly, while sweet lies fly off the shelves like hotcakes. You cannot outplay stupidity just by working harder at one job. And this is not a philosophical statement. It is a law of physics. You can run faster, you can sweat harder, you can sleep less. But if you run in a wheel that rolls nowhere, you are simply wearing out your joints, bringing closer the moment when the mechanism breaks and throws you onto the roadside. You can earn $1 million, you can earn even 2. But if that million depends on one tap controlled by another person, your boss, investor, or official, you are still a slave, just a slave in an expensive Italian suit who was allowed to sit at the master's table while the master is in a good mood. You think freedom is the ability to buy what you want. No, that is the illusion of consumption. True freedom is the ability not to do what you don't want and yet not die of hunger. Do you feel the difference? Most people don't. And that is exactly why they spend their best years in offices with artificial lighting, selling their lives by the hour, hoping that at the end of the journey, they will be given a gold watch and patted on the shoulder. But at the end of the journey, only silence awaits them and the realization that they built a castle on sand. Security is not the sum in the account, and that is the mistake even smart people make, confusing stock with flow. You can have $1 million in the bank, but if inflation is 10% and you earn nothing, you get poorer every day. You watch your ice melt, and it drives you crazy. Security is not a pool of water that evaporates. Security is the number of pipes through which this water flows to you continuously, regardless of the weather, regardless of whether you are healthy or sick, smart or stupid at a given moment. Have you ever seen a person who is truly calm? Not someone who plays calm for the camera, but someone who has silence inside? That is not a monk. That is a person who knows that if his factory closes tomorrow, he will live on dividends. If the stock market crashes, he will live on real estate rental. If real estate burns down, he will live on royalties. That is invulnerability. That is the armor you are obliged to forge for yourself, because no one else, not the state, not the union, not your children, will do it for you. But you are still sitting here, and I see your brain looking for a loophole, whispering to you, I will start on Monday. I will start when I get a bonus. I will start when I pay off the car loan. That is a lie. That is the voice of your procrastination wanting to kill your future to preserve the comfort of your present. Tomorrow is the place where 99% of human dreams are stored, and it is a graveyard where your potential is buried. You won't start tomorrow, because tomorrow you will be the same person as today, only a day older and a day more cowardly. Start today, not in an hour. Now, buy one share, one, damn it, fractional share for $5 instead of a cup of coffee. Open a savings account and transfer 1% of what you have in your wallet there. Find one client on the side, even if he pays you pennies. Do at least something to prove to the system, the universe, and most importantly, to yourself, that you are not just a cog in someone else's machine, that you have teeth, that you have will, that you are a player, not a chip on the table. You think these small actions don't matter? You think a drop in the ocean doesn't change the water level? That is a linear thinking error. Compound interest works not only with money, it works with habits. It works with psychology. The first $5 that come to you, not from a boss, will change your brain chemistry more than 1,000,001 in a lottery. You will feel the taste of blood, the taste of the hunt, the taste of sovereignty. You will stop looking at your boss as a benefactor and start looking at him as one of the clients. And if this client starts behaving badly, you will fire him, not him you. But are you ready for this? Are you ready to take responsibility for your life? Or is it more comfortable for you to blame the economy, the president, parents, and retrograde Mercury for the fact that you are poor? And now, when we have torn off all the masks, when you have no arguments left to defend your passivity, I have one question for you, one simple, cruel, brutal question that you must ask yourself looking in the mirror when you turn off this video. Don't try to fool me. I am just a voice in your head. Don't try to fool the commenters. They don't care about you. Try not to fool yourself, although it will be hellishly painful. If tomorrow morning, exactly at 9, your boss calls you into the office, doesn't offer coffee, doesn't smile, but dryly says, "You are fired, hand over your pass and clear your desk in 15 minutes. How long will you last? Not how long you think you will last, but how long realistically, mathematically, physically can you live, maintaining your current standard of living before you start selling things, borrowing from friends, humiliating yourself before banks, and starving? A month? 3? A year? Or maybe you are a free person and your answer is eternity? This figure is not just statistics. This figure is the price of your freedom. This figure is an indicator of how much you belong to yourself and how much to the system. If your answer is 2 weeks, you are not a worker, you are a hostage, and a terrorist has put a gun to your temple. You are just used to the coldness of the metal. If your answer is 3 months, you are a slave on a long leash. And only if your answer is infinity can you call yourself an adult, free man or woman. Write this number in the comments. Just a number, months, days, years. Let's see how many free people are here who have built their aqueducts, and how many are hostages hoping the terrorist will be merciful. I will read every answer, and every answer will be a verdict or a medal. I am waiting. Don't hide. Time has started.